If we would go ahead and take a moment for silent meditation, if we would stand. Thank you. And if you would join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, now it's time for our recognitions.
Dr. Beams and members of the board. Tonight, I have the privilege of honoring some outstanding individuals in the Clark County School District. Honorees, as I call your name, please come to the podium, accept your certificate, and shake hands with our board members and superintendent. Our Always Better Everyday Award recipient is Mr. Dana Sigmund. He is our instructional technology specialist. Dana was nominated by Jan Mullins and Fonda Slongo, who had this to say about him. Dana commits to excellence and equity for all students. He understands that as an instructional technology specialist, his role is to support staff as they strive to find authentic, creative, and relevant activities for students. He understands the amazing synergy that occurs when standards-driven instruction meets creative expression and discovery learning opportunities. He works with teachers in planning innovative projects, and he also makes himself available to work directly with classes, small groups, and individual students to integrate technology use to show what they know and inspire others. Dana helped at Barra Elementary with fifth grade projects open to each and every student. Just a small sampling, he worked with the Barra Elementary Citizens Voice projects, combining service learning, social studies, language arts, creativity, collaboration, and technology. So congratulations to Dana Sigmund. Next, we have Kelly Bibbins. She is a teacher at Cedar Shoals High School for the Fulbright Award. Kelly Bibbins of Cedar Shoals has been offered a Fulbright Teachers for Global Classrooms program grant. Ms. Bibbins is one of approximately 76 U.S. citizens who will travel abroad through the Fulbright Teachers for Global Classrooms program in 2019 and 2020. Recipients of Fulbright grants are selected on the basis of academic and professional achievement as well as demonstrated leadership potential. Fulbright Teachers for Global Classrooms is a year-long professional development opportunity for U.S. elementary, middle, and high school teachers to develop for preparing students for a competitive global economy. Future problem solvers, Gail Abraham, and we have Jan Mullins is our Barra Elementary future problem solving coach, and we also have our gifted specialist Siri Beal, who coached that team. Gail Abraham, a fifth grader from David C. Barra Elementary School, recently attended the Future Problem Solving International Conference at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. She was among approximately 2,500 4th through 12th grade students who attended from areas including Australia, China, New Zealand, Norway, Singapore, Turkey, and the United States. At the conference, Gail's team, which also included students from Michigan, Ohio, and New Zealand, won third place in the junior division scenario writing team competition. Only 2 other students from Georgia, both who were high school students, placed at the 2019 competition. Eli and Gail were coached by Barrow teacher Jan Mullins and Ccsd specialist Siri Bill. Gail, got it. Last but not least, we have an Eagle Scout, Harvey Subiuchi, Eagle Scout 2019 Clark Central graduate. The 2019 Clark Central High School graduate, along with area Boy Scout Troop 1111, recently restored the entrance to the nature trails at Oglethorpe Avenue Elementary School. A substantial network of trails is located in the forest behind the school. During the recent building renovation, the entrance trail deteriorated from erosion. Harvey created a plan for the entrance restoration as part of his requirements to earn the rank of Eagle Scout. Harvey Subiuchi. This concludes our recognitions for this month.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Okay, we're now in a place where we can take a look at our agenda and either amend or adopt the agenda. I'm going to open up the floor. Is there a motion to amend or adopt the agenda?
I don't have amendment, but I move that we adopt the agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second, all right. Any other discussion or questions? All right, all in favor? All right, moving on to our public comments. We have a number of people scheduled for public comments, and so I will first find my sheet to remind us of our parameters here. Okay, I can't readily find that, so I'm gonna not panic, but I am gonna say, I think from what I remember, our public comments can't be more than 3 minutes, and no personal attacks. Comments should be addressed to the board, and keeping in mind that the board will not be making, will not make replies, will not reply or respond to your comments. Okay? And if I left out anything,
Two additional things there.
yes, sir.
Not to use students' names in their public comment, and also they have any questions, but not may have liberty to write superintendent or president.
Can you say that in your mic? Mr. Worthy, you can say it better than I can. Remember it.
I understand that you cannot use students' names publicly, and if you have any questions about anything tonight, you put it in writing to the superintendent and president of the board.
Thank you. Thank you all for your help with that. Yes.
President, just to help out is BCBI
Okay.
policy, and it states comments will be limited to 3 minutes. At this point, remarks will be concluded. No speaker will indulge in personal attacks. While speaking, all comments are to be addressed directly to the Board of Education. To protect the privacy of our students, speakers shall refrain from identifying specific students by name. Personal concerns may be addressed in writing to the superintendent or president of the board. Impressive, Mr. Worthy. Written copies of comments may be provided to the board.
Thank you. Okay. Our first speaker is Alvin Sheets. Mr. Alvin Sheets. Okay. Mr. William Breeding.
this man's contract, a man of integrity, a man who said he supports all children. Thank you. And for those who did not vote for him, I hope the forces of good will follow you as long as you're making decisions for the students of Clark County School District. I was hoping that would stay there 5 minutes, but since it did, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Matthews. You brought out something. There's an elephant in this room. There's an elephant in this district. There's an elephant even in this country. Racism. I can almost smell it. Thank you for speaking out. I have a friend that I met in school who's a member of the Klan. And he gave me some advice to tell you, Dr. Gant, tell you, Dr. Mills, and tell you, Dr. Matthews. There are people who will use your words against you. So when you say black and brown children, we all know who you're talking about. Put something before that and say children in need, and then tell who you're talking about. Because there are people sitting on this board that will go in their communities and say, I told you they don't care about you. All they care about is black and brown children. I got through half of it. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Charlie Maddox.
Superintendent, Chairperson, members of the board. I think we're at a critical point here at Clark County, where I call home for many, many years. But we're at a point where we can just do the right thing. But we just, in our individual roles, as board members, as parents, as
difficult using these smartphones people have out there. But I'm going to try to present my thoughts today to the Dr. Williams, to Dr. Gant, to the board, to the taxpaying citizens in Athens. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is because Dr. Gant said we need to put things in writing, so I'm trying to email this to Ms. Palmer as I speak. I don't know how good this is working, but however, I have concerns about the integrity of the board in making decisions. When you make decisions for the children and the school, but you make the decisions according to your friendships outside of the Board of Education. And integrity should be paramount in making decisions. And one of my concerns right now is about property, land trust, and so I would ask the attorney, Mr. Pruitt, if he would consider talking to the board about recusing, or abstaining from voting when there's a conflict of interest and abuse of discretion by board members. And so I would suggest, and I know other people have concerns as well, that anyone that is on the payroll for land trust, that's on this board, Dr. Mallison, anybody else that's planning to have deep connections, should not vote for anything where the property that's involved with the Board of Education and the school system, where land trust has hands on it, that person should not be voted because there's a conflict of interest. And I think that the attorney should get involved in this when people are doing things and abusing their authority and their discretion. I have a problem with that. We need to be transparent and we need to be truthful. And what should come first is the best interest of the school board, the children, and the parents of Athens-Clarke County. So if any one of you on that board has any deep ties with land trust, work for them, or thinking about it, you need not to vote on anything that's going to give them power and authority over anything that has to do with Athens-Clarke County school system. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. This is Diane Dunstan.
Good evening to the board, Dr. Lynn, the superintendent. I am Dr. Diane Dunstan. My name is Diane E. Dunstan, MD, FAAP, the initials medical doctor, fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics. And that's why I'm here tonight. As a long-term member of Athens-Clarke County, I am an unapologetic advocate of all children. I am pleased to have this opportunity to address this board. I want to publicly thank Dr. Williams for his willingness to accept this challenge of dealing with the inequities that are evident in the Clarke County School District. Have been that way for a long time. When I first came to this town, there was a gentleman who was a part of the school district who would slip me statistics, ones that couldn't come out because they weren't allowed to come out. And I have been an advocate working for our children for some 30 plus years. Congratulations, Clarke County School District, for the positive progress shown in the 2019 Georgia milestones. We're happy about that. We want to thank you. I was moved to speak publicly because as I reviewed
the publication of Pediatrics, which is the official journal of the American Academy of Pediatrics, a policy statement went into effect in August. The impact of racism on child and adolescent health. The objective of the policy statement is to provide an evidence-based document which focuses on the role of racism in child and adolescent development and health outcomes. It's not just health, it's also education. Racism impacts the education of the children in this country, in this district. And for any of us to think and believe that it doesn't is naivete. So, Dr. Means, thank you. There are those of us in the community who will continue to work. We plan to see the positive progress continue, and we will not allow it to stop because of racism. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Bayer.
Thank you, Dr. Gant, and members of the board. My name is Lisa Bayer. I live at 655 Riverbend Parkway, and I'm here tonight in support of Dr. Patricia Yeager's application for the District 4 vacancy on the Clark County Board of Education. I've gotten to know Tish well since moving to Athens in 2012. In that time, we've connected primarily over having children in the Clark County School District. My daughter, his sons are all proud current or past members of the award-winning Classic City Sound marching band at Cedar Shoals High School. Over the past 7 years, Tish and I have worked together on numerous school-related efforts, including the Hillsman and Cedar Shoals PTOs, the Hillsman Science and Energy, the Hillsman Middle School Band, and for the past 2 years in the band boosters for the Classic City Sound. As you know, the students, teachers, and staff in our district schools face many challenges and need strong support from parents, families, the community, and the Board of Education. In spite of a demanding job and other commitments, Tish makes herself available and present, working tirelessly on behalf of our East Side schools, filling in gaps and providing reinforcements wherever needed. You can find her organizing the concession stand at Cedar most Friday nights between August and November, which provides crucial financial support for our marching band. She mentors high school students interested in STEM careers through Young Dogs and brings food for our teachers during their late conference nights. She is committed to the crucial work of the Cedar Shoals LSGT, where her leadership and resource management have made a difference for our students. Tish's distinguished scholarly accomplishments as a woman in the sciences demonstrate her commitment to advocating on behalf of everyone at the table. She has spoken up at UGA about equitable compensation for women faculty members. She has taken the LSGT training on school board governance very seriously, and we have had many, many conversations about public education, equity, and opportunity. Tish is a sensitive, thoughtful listener, and when she speaks, people in turn listen to her. She is a consensus builder, not swayed by politics or special interests. Tish Yeager's first priority will be the best interests of the children of Clark County, all of them, and that is why I believe that she will be a conscientious and collaborative appointee to the District 4 board seat. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Denise Smith.
Thank you. I'm Denise Smith, retired specialist with Value Teachers. It has been tremendously rewarding for me to work with employees at the Clark County School District for over 17 years. 17 years. In May of 2002, I helped my very first client, a teacher at Clark Middle School, save for his retirement. Within 2 years of working with district employees, Value Teachers became the #1 provider by helping more employees start 403B accounts than any of the other 8 companies combined. We have maintained that standing ever since. I'm honored to have served Clark County and to have affected 20% participation in their 403B 457 plans. Of the 627 employees saving, approximately 450 contribute to a Value Teachers account. Value Teachers has made a difference, and we truly have helped employees prepare to retire with dignity. I've also enjoyed being a volunteer and sponsor in many areas and meaningful ways. The partnership I've forged with this school district has led to very strong relationships, great respect, and tremendous concern for my clients. I received notice that the district intends to make a change. Per a request for information, which I've provided copies of, the district is proposing to reduce their 403B providers from 9 down to 1. Auto enrollment and limited on-site access to employees is also proposed. After visiting with multiple clients and administrators, I was shocked to discover that these proposed changes have not been disclosed to most or all school employees being affected. To eliminate the plan that 20% of your employees are currently participating in will cause severe negative consequences to their retirement goals. Here's one example. Mr. Custodian pays into PSCRS. He's a Value Teachers client. He gave me permission to use his name, but for privacy, I won't in this forum. You can confirm with him what I'm about to share. Mr. Custodian began saving with Value Teachers in 2002, started small, and through the years, because we meet for annual reviews and updates, he has increased his contribution to $850 a month. If he continues saving $850 a month until age 62, his plan, after saving only 18 years with Value Teachers, he'll receive more each month from his 403B for life than he's going to receive from PSCRS after 36 years of service. If he has to discontinue his contributions, the plan we put in place for his retirement is sabotaged. There are many employees contributing to these accounts with the expectation of another benefit for life. Employees benefit from choice, they deserve choice. Our company encourages choice, and we encourage a mutual fund if the system wants to add that and offer that, but to eliminate choice would be a disaster to employees. Please consider other options. I want to close with a request that the 20% of Clark County School District employees saving with Value Teachers be allowed to continue saving in their current plan. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Fred Smith.
President again, Mr. Superintendent, board members. I hate to have to keep coming here, but it's just so painful, some of the things that are going on in our community. Let me back up a little bit. The year before Dr. Means came here, 2016, in one of our elementary schools, African American 3rd through 5th grades, 94% were not proficient in math. We didn't hear a word, did we? Not one word. And I come from a special place in this community. Dr. Gant came from a special place in this community. She knows what I'm talking about, where we came from. And now I'm dedicating my life to youth who come from similar places. Right now, somebody mentioned East Athens. Of course, there are 2 East Athens, but I won't go into that. But right now, one of the hats that I wear, I am the interim director of the East Athens Development Corporation. And we have a special interest in education of the youth, as well as doing what we can for the adults as well. But I want to thank Dr. Means for the strong attention that he has given to the usually neglected part of these things. Let it be the students who go to games, school, those that go to Howard East Drive, from that area. And so we are pleased, and it may not sound like we're kind of energetic by the fact that we have strong leadership now. Some of your best, I believe, some of the best principals come there at Stroud and at games. And so we're looking forward to a lot of positive results. And it just pains me, though, that we feel like we are having to fight certain board members on behalf of students, again, who deserve opportunities. So that's what it's really about. I feel fortunate where I came from and where I've been. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We are going to move on. Thank you for all of those who shared your thoughts with us. We are at the committee reports. We'll start with Finance Committee. If there's,
Yeah, I'll speak to that.
okay.
I want to inform you that the Finance Committee would not meet 15 at 4:30. That meeting has been moved to Tuesday the 13th at 4:30. And we had, yes. Well, let's see. The last that I talked with the CFO was on the 13th, so we may not have one, okay? But that's correct. We're not having a meeting in August, we're going to September. And of course, some of you probably are aware of the fact that Mr. Larry Hammer is no longer with us, but our new CFO, Byron Schumann. Raise your hand. Thank you. All right. That's not cool. Where everything from.
Thank you. All right, and our Government Relations Committee.
Thank you, Lakeisha. We have, and I say we, this board, along with the County Commission, will be having a joint retreat on the 26th of this month. We have, I think, a very interesting agenda that will both get us up out of our chairs, but also deal with two areas that both the county and the school board have in common. One is after-school summer programming, and the other is an economic mobility of the citizens of Clark County as we try to educate and provide living wages, or allow living wages to be paid in Clark County so that people can have a decent life for themselves if they so choose to stay. So anyway, that's going to be at 5:30 on the 26th. We're going to be doing it at the Planning Department. And so for board members, put it on your calendars. And we're working jointly with the mayor to hone in the agenda, and it'll be from 5:30 to 8:30. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. August 26th. Can you give us the time again?
Yes. It's 5:30 to 8:30.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's going to, anyway, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Our policy committee report.
Thank you. Policy committee will be bringing two things up later in the meeting. one policy to go out with regard to classified personnel evaluation, and then another that just needs to be struck because it's not consistent with anything. So we'll be asking to suspend the rules to work on or to rescind IDCH, which is dual enrollment. As with some of the other committees, we've been having a hard time finding a meeting date. We're trying to move the meeting so that the public can attend. We had meetings that were in Thursday mornings, which were tough. So we're trying for Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. However, we're having this, and this is news to committee members, we're having time conflict not just on the 15th, but also the 22nd of August. So at the moment, it doesn't look like we will have an August policy committee meeting. So stay tuned on that.
Thank you. And so you'll update us, like if there's any changes with regards to meeting. Okay. Property committee?
Yes, policy committee met on the property committee met on July 17th. We met in executive session. I'm not going to take the liberty to go over that. In fact, I can't. Dr. Means will be talking about that in his superintendent's report tonight.
Thank you. All right. Board and community committees. Any updates? Let's start with the Athens Area Community Foundation.
I have one just. Okay. So there are quarterly meetings of the Athens Area Community Foundation, and the next one will be Tuesday, August 27th. So I'll have another report after that for the September meeting. But I wanted to, the President and CEO of the Athens Area Community Foundation sent along a success story, and it's related to education, so I wanted to just share that with the group. A fund holder expressed interest in scholarship. Having recently retired to Athens, she wanted to learn more about post-secondary opportunities for education in the region. We met, reviewed options, landing on potential interest with Athens Tech. We scheduled a tour at Athens Tech and reviewed student scholarship need. After much thought, the donor will establish an annual scholarship for women at Athens Tech in the areas of technology, engineering and manufacturing, business and education, and life sciences and public safety. It is an incredible role, or an incredible honor for the Athens Area Community Foundation to connect donors to cause, and I thought that this particular success story was relevant as it was providing scholarship money for education, and specifically women in education at Athens Tech.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right, our community oversight SPLOS report.
Madam President, we met, I wasn't there, I was on vacation, but the meeting took place on July the 9th. And the most of the points that I will share is Oglethorpe Avenue Elementary School, the stormwater system has been signed off, and basically things are moving along in Cole and Bernie Harris Lyons. Also, stormwater systems have been approved by the county. Also, at both schools, signage is being prepared to comply with the design traffic configuration. And also, at Barney Harris, Cobb, and Hillsman, new scoreboards will be installed. At Hillsman, work continues. Students will be out of school on Friday, August the 23rd, and Monday, August the 26th. An open house is planned for August the 26th to enable parents to view the school, and a ribbon cutting ceremony is planned for later. That date hasn't been set yet. The Hillsman Health Clinic, the building aspects of this project are being managed by the Spillage Department, with the funds being reimbursed by P-Bun Foundation. Demolition work has commenced, and bids are being obtained for various elements of the work. The intention is for the facility to provide support to Hillsman and Gaines initially, then extend to Cedar Shores. We've talked about that before.
Clark Central High School softball and practice field improvements. This project is on time and is progressing well. In terms of Cedar Shows, demolition work has been done and use of the space has been agreed. The work comprises creating a larger wrestling room, storage for team sports, including ROTC, and facilities for visiting teams. And last month, Desta Fisher confirmed that Rod Platt and Andrew Malik have been approved as COC members by the Ccsd board. Rick Parker proposed, well, we have to go into that, but Andrea, we have 2 new members that we will be inviting for next month. So we'll see if they will be joining us. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Envision Athens.
Envision Athens is doing quite well. We're coming up on our first 1-year anniversary. There is a big celebration planned for here, Thursday, September 26th, from 5 to 8 p.m. There will be vendors bringing in food. Everybody's invited to come, and I think there'll be room set up so that you can actually go and visit a table that talks about each one of the 14 priority areas for Envision Athens. So it's a community event. I highly encourage you to come. I think it's going to be a great experience. I think we're even gonna, there's some catered food. That was the last plan I heard. And I believe our own chef who does a phenomenal job with the students from the Career Academy will also delight us with some wonderful things. I hope we'll have pickles. If we can pass that on, that would be great. The bread and butter ones are my favorite. And if they want to make some of those wonderful cookies, they don't have to make many, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
September 26th from 5 to 8 p.m. September 26th. That's why when you said the 26th, I'm like, what?
Okay, let's see, where are we? Foundation for Excellence.
Yeah, that's me. So for those who don't know, the Foundation for Excellence in Public Education, their mission is to encourage, recognize, and reward excellence in the Clark County School District. So at a board meeting earlier this year, May, they had awarded their student awards. This summer, they completed their staff and teacher awards, and they wished for me to convey how pleased they were to have the opportunity at the Clark County School District kickoff on July 30th to share the recipients of those awards and grants. And they have also heard positive feedback from the community about their participation in the event. One of their most recent exciting news is that their endowment passed the $1 million mark in July, which is something I know that CJ Anderson, the executive director, has held as one of her personal goals. So, and she wanted me to emphasize that that money is 99% from local private donations from Athens Clark County community members who care about public education here. So, something to be celebrated. The next upcoming calendar item to be aware of is they do hold their annual awards banquet in October. That is going to be October 14th at the Cotton Press. They would like all board members to save the date and attend if possible, and let me know that tickets are going to be available for purchase after Labor Day, but more details will be forthcoming.
Thank you. Okay, now the Georgia School Boards Association, that would be me. I don't have any, I guess, updates regarding anything that's happened recently. I think most of us received the emails from the Georgia School Board Association, so yes, so they did have a survey here recently. I think they had extended the deadline until maybe the 2nd, I think. And then also, this was in the email as well, that they have an upcoming webinar that's related to policy development, as well as, I think I saw, there was a webinar towards September, actually. Another one in September that is focused on school board member self-evaluations. And so those were a couple of the things that stuck out. But again, I think most of us received those emails, so.
Did you say that that they can still take the survey 2nd of September, or was it?
No, I think it was August 2nd. You mean the general?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was August 2nd. That they had.
This week, it said we can still take us through.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really encourage school board
I
members
took it
to,
a while ago.
yeah, so if you haven't done it, do it, you know.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have to double check. Definitely, if it still allows you to take it, it would be a good idea. All right, moving on, we are at the minutes of the previous meeting, so if you would turn your attention to the June 6th special call meeting minutes. And we looked at these last week, but,
I have no changes or corrections. Do we need a motion?
yeah, we need a motion.
I move that we adopt the approved minutes for the June 6th special call meeting.
Second by Dr. Knox. All right, any questions about the minutes? All right, all in favor? Okay.
Well, we're going to have.
Yes, sir.
Since we went over these last week, and I was reviewing them since then, can we just go ahead and approve the remaining one for June 6th? Work session 13th and 18th at the same time?
I don't know. I will defer to your expertise.
We've done it.
And Mr. Freeman.
I move that we approve the minutes for June 6th work session, June the 13th board meeting, and June the 18th, which was a call meeting.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Worthy, second by Mr. Davis. Any questions or concerns related to that motion? Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you. Okay, now we are at the policy section, and so I'm gonna go ahead and turn that over to you, Dr. Knox, for policy GCI.
This is coming from the policy committee. Policy GCI, classified personnel evaluation. I'll just go ahead and make the motion on behalf of the policy committee that we move to post this policy for public comment for 4 weeks.
Yes. Okay, we have a second. I'm gonna open the floor for any questions or thoughts about this policy.
And so I'll just give the background.
Okay.
This is simply for review. We reviewed this policy. It was adopted back in 1983. We looked at it, fixed a couple of typos. That's it. So it's just going out for review.
What was that mean?
Okay, well, all in favor for policy GCI to be posted for public comment? Show of hands. Okay. That carries. All right. Policies to be adopted or rescinded. Policy IDCH.
Okay. This policy is IDCH, dual enrollment, move on when ready. And what we need to do on this one, on behalf of the policy committee, is to suspend the rules so that we may rescind this policy. So I'll leave it at that and probably look to our parliamentarian to make sure we're doing this right.
Sure. So motion to suspend the rules, state the reason, justify a second, not debatable, 2/3 vote to suspend.
All right. So did you make a motion, Dr. Knox?
Yes, on behalf of the policy committee, I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, Dr. Maddox, and all in favor of suspending the rules? Okay,
Okay, so now I guess we're to the point of the, motion to rescind IDCH, dual enrollment. And I assume then we would second and have discussion, so.
that's the motion.
That's the motion.
Okay, all right, is there a second? Okay, all right, let's open up, if you could give us some, background, and we'll open up the floor.
Okay, and so I'm going to defer to Dr. Myers on this. The nutshell of it is that this policy is so far out of alignment with law that we were told from above, from GSBA, that the best advice was simply to get rid of it and let the law do it. But I'm going to defer to Dr. Myers and others who can elaborate more clearly on this.
That's exactly right. There had been a state board rule that required a policy on dual enrollment. There's no such rule. I want to be really abundantly clear. We are not doing away with dual enrollment. We are pro dual enrollment. We want to increase dual enrollment. We want to remove barriers to dual enrollment. So this is simply our policy, which we have been required to have, is now out of alignment with new state board of education rules about dual enrollment. And the advice from GSBA was, don't try to keep up with the state board rule and constantly change your policy, rescind your policy if it's no longer needed, and defer to the state board rule, which we would need to follow anyways. And so this is providing hopefully great clarity, but I want to make sure that there's no misinterpretation, that we're not doing away with dual enrollment at all. Just making sure our policy isn't a barrier in and of itself.
Did that answer or address Ms. Davis, like why we
Right.
Everybody, because we enjoy doing it.
And so, I'll say it in the microphone, make sure everybody hears it. This isn't about doing away with dual enrollment. This is about getting rid of a policy where we haven't kept up with what the policies are in terms of the law, and so it's better just to get rid of this rather than having to play catch up every few years. This was last revised, for example, in October of 2017, and it's already so far out of date that the advice from GSBA was to rescind it.
Any other questions or comments about the motion that's, okay, all right. All in favor of rescinding policy IDCH, just show by raising your hands. All right, thank you. Okay, we are at place in our agenda for our board report. The very first thing is the introduction of the district board candidates. At this point, we have one candidate. And so I'm going to, we discussed last week at the work session that we would have a video statement from Patricia Yeager, as she is unable to be here. We originally, at one point there were 2 candidates, but we are back down to 1 candidate. And so that video statement has been prepared for us. So we will watch that, and then we will move on to item 10.2, which is taking action on the district court vacancy.
and Alexander 15. Zach is the valedictorian at Cedar Shoals in 2018. Alex is a rising sophomore there. I'm an active parent volunteer at my children's schools, and I've conducted public outreach and education here in Athens as a professor of marine science at UGA for the past 20 years. Except for my bachelor's degree, I am a product of public schools and universities. I'm motivated to apply for this position because I care about providing a quality education to all the children in Clark County. My interests developed from my role as a parent and my membership since 2016 on the local school governance team at Cedar Shoals. Several friends also encouraged me to apply, and while I was hesitant at first, I was ultimately inspired by the opportunity to help all our students realize their full potential. My belief in the value of public schools grew stronger watching my sons benefit from attending Ccsd and being part of the diverse community of voices there. Following my son Zach's graduation, it seems fitting that I could give something back to a district that has given us so much. Recently, I was also moved by a presentation by Dr. Grace Bagwell-Adams regarding her findings from the Athens Wellbeing Project. The divide in our community's economic well-being is something that every citizen of Athens should be concerned about. We must improve equal opportunity for our citizens by supporting local government and non-governmental organizations that are trying to make a difference there. While the BOE cannot address all the issues in our community, I do believe that it can partner with others to facilitate change that improves opportunities for our children, particularly through informed oversight of our school district. During one of our LSDT training sessions, we learned from Dr. Thomas Alsbury about how balanced governance improves school board effectiveness. I was struck by the links he showed between declining student achievement and frequent turnover of school boards and superintendents. In my research on the topic since then, it's clear to me that a well-functioning and balanced school board is key to good educational outcomes in any school district. I care about providing educational opportunities to all the children in Clark County, and I believe I can help with my thoughtful and evidence-based approach to complex problems. The skills I offer you have developed during my 30-year career as an Earth system scientist and a college professor who has partnered with K-12 educators. Specifically, I offer a deliberative approach that focuses on reason and evidence-based decision-making. As a woman in STEM, I also have a well-developed sense of empathy for others and experience working to include diverse groups of people. My field of oceanography is highly interdisciplinary and requires teamwork. I've performed research as part of a team for my entire career. During the past 10 years, I've successfully led and coordinated several large but diverse teams of scientists on month-long research expeditions. I understand the importance of building relationships among team members and the critical role that leadership plays in successful team outcomes. Partnerships with K-12 teachers have helped develop my understanding of both the opportunities and the challenges of public education. Through the Polar Trek program, our teacher-researcher partnerships enhanced teacher knowledge and increased student performance on science assessments. I've seen firsthand how university science can impact K-12 education through teacher support and collaboration. My role on the LSGT has also prepared me. I've worked with 2 principals at Cedar, including the hiring of a second, and am familiar with the challenges there. Our LSGT grants have improved social and emotional learning through restorative justice circles, improved literacy through free summer books and vocabulary apps, and improved numeracy through experiential science learning. I believe that LSGTs empower schools to make choices that will best impact their student outcomes. Having observed several recent board meetings, I understand the challenges facing you right now. The situation is complex and there is no silver bullet. Even so, I hope to be a constructive member of a deliberative body that contributes to improving educational opportunities for all the children of Athens. It's been said that local school boards are the crucibles of democracy. As an oceanographer, I see that our community needs all hands on deck right now, with every member doing what they can to make a difference. Our students deserve no less.
Thank you. We are at the place of action, so we're going to open the floor for any motions Mr. Davis.
I nominate our candidate for District 4. Right.
I second.
Okay, so Mr. Davis has a motion, a nomination for Patricia Yeager. Dr. Maddox, there's a second. And go ahead and open up the floor for any discussion.
I would be remiss if I didn't say, I got to meet Dr. Yeager when she was here the other night, so we had a nice brief conversation, and I really appreciate that. And I don't want our community to be discouraged, because I had a classmate that came to me, and he says, "You're the only one up there without one of those doctors in front of your name." Well, you know, it's not required to be a doctor to be on the Board of Education. And so I don't want us to think that that's the direction that we're going, but I welcome her, and I welcome her openness in reaching out to us. And so I'm looking forward to that, but I also want us to be mindful that, we don't want to give the impression that we're trying to become the latest board where we're not representing the people and can't connect with the people that we're trying to serve.
That's right. Thank you for bringing up that very important point.
But they were proud of me for being here, let me just tell you.
I just wanted to point out that I've never had the opportunity of meeting this woman, but we did have over 30 folks who recommended her. So I thought that was impressive. I didn't have that many recommendations.
Just for point of clarification, you're referring to the public comment that we, public comments that we received.
Yes. Others? All right, well, let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor of Patricia Yeager for the District 4 seat, if you would indicate that by show of hands. Okay, it's unanimous. All right, so Patricia Yeager is our District 4, has been voted in as our District 4 representative to fill that vacancy.
So who's gonna call her? Or maybe she's watching.
Us, she's watching.
Okay, she's watching. Welcome, Patricia.
Okay, we're gonna turn it over to you, Dr. Means, for our superintendent report.
I'd like to start with a presentation from our friends from the United Way.
Two buttons. There are two buttons. All right, thank you, Dr. Means, and thank you, Dr. Dan, and the rest of the school board. We really, really appreciate this opportunity, and especially appreciate what you've done and what you've contributed to what our efforts, and in fact, your efforts to educate our small ones. So what we do at United Way is we actually operate the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library for Clark County. And if you don't know about that program, it's an incredible program where we get the opportunity to send free books to children every single month from the time they were born until they turn 5 years old. And there's been a lot of discussion of equity tonight, and that's a thrilling thing to us because if we don't start as soon as possible, we can't really make a dent in any of the disparity that we see in our community. So we're thrilled about the partnerships that we have to make sure that every kid that comes that is born in St. Mary's and Piedmont Athens region gets approached and is able to register their kids to get books. We actually have 2,500 kids in Clark County receiving these books every single month as of right now. And that's something that we're really thrilled about, something that you all have done in supporting us that's helped us increase that number and also increase the support we receive is you've allowed us to perform some statistical work on the benefits, the actual results of this program. And from last year we saw, based on your information crossed with our information, that 10% of children who received our books performed 10% better on literacy evaluations when they enter kindergarten than children who did not receive these books. So thank you. And an even more incredible number is that children who received these books were twice as likely to be placed in gifted courses than children who did not receive these books. And so we're just absolutely thrilled about that. Right now, 33% of the kids in Clark County receive books. That's a pretty awesome thing, but you all contributed, and the school district contributed $15,000 to this program in Clark County, and that's something that's pretty astonishing, and it's actually going to allow us to help well over 400 students start receiving these books, and we're hoping we can get that number even higher and higher. So thank you very much. I pulled the camera because our board members in Clark County, Crystal Rosenberg, and also Daniel Masseri are here to receive this from y'all, because we'd love to take a photo with you all. You've also received some books from us. That is Little Engine That Could, Dolly Parton's favorite book. Every single child who starts the program, that's the first book they receive. So we wanted to thank you for your initial gift. This gift that started off this partnership, we really love it. You've always been supportive of us, but we're so thankful for this. And so I'm going to take a photo now. If Dr. means that many of you, as are able, would join them, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. So many of y'all. Look good. Look like you like each other. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Madam President, the second item of my 4-item report this evening is regarding school programming. There was a request for us to follow up on ASP from our fall 2018 presentation. And as we started uncovering and looking at this issue more, it's complicated. And so Mr. Gaskins, along with his team, and he'll introduce his team in a second, they framed the issue that we need to address and we'll be working on in the future. Mr. Gaskins.
Thank you, Dr. Means. Good afternoon, good evening, Board President, board members, as well as Dr. Means. So with me, I have our Executive Director of Leadership Development, Dr. Jennifer Scott, and our new Title I Director, Hope McGuire. So hopefully I will be able to answer all of your questions, but if not, I will defer to them as well. So we have 3 objectives for our presentation. The first is that we want to provide a background of after-school programming here in Ccsd, as well as our 21st century after-school program. We want to identify strengths and opportunities for our after-school program, and then discuss action steps moving forward that we will implement this year. So, background for our after-school program. So we have 4 after-school program sites. These are all elementary sites at all our elementary schools. They are funded by families, and they've been in existence for 30 or more years here in Ccsd. They are staffed by school employees, UGA students, and community members. So the basic structure of all of our after-school programs is homework help, monitor recess, and enrichment activities. The enrichment activities are an additional cost to families. We also have our 21st century after-school program. So we currently have 6 sites. So 2 elementary sites that are at the Boys and Girls Club, and then 4 middle school sites. So we received this grant first in 2009. Again, our elementary school sites are located at the Boys and Girls Club locations, one on the east side and one on the west side. Our middle school programs are on site and facilitated by the Boys and Girls Club staff. We no longer have high school participating in the 21st Century Grant. Their grant has ended and we were not awarded an additional grant cycle. The difference between our after-school program and our 21st Century after-school programming is that it limits the number of students that are served in this grant. 21st Century is funded through a federal grant. It's a competitive grant that we apply for every 5 years. So our elementary school, we're in our second 5-year cycle. Our middle school will have to reapply at the end of the year. And we wanted to note that Clark Middle School did not meet their attendance goal, and this may impact future funding. So that's something that we're aware of and that we're working on with the new principal, Mr. Henley. So as we look at after-school programming and its strengths, we have identified that it provides a safe environment for after-school care. It's staffed by school employees that have a relationship with our students and families. Staff is aware of school and district expectations and procedures, so it's like an extension of the school day for our students. In some schools, Gaines Elementary School particularly, our LSGT funds have been devoted to supporting the programming. It is cost efficient for our parents. So the most that any parent pays is $30 per week, to $6 per day. Some of the opportunities we've identified for after-school programming is that the program inequities from site to site and student to student. So depending on your school and depending on your socioeconomic background, you may be able to afford enrichment activities or not. Some of our schools have science, a science club, they have band, they have karate, and some sites do not. We currently do not have a program evaluation for our after-school programming. So there's no way for us to assess the impact on the social emotional growth of our students, the academic achievement of our students, and the connection to the overall school community. And then we also have unclear reporting structure. So we're unclear about the oversight of after-school programming. Is this a district oversight of this programming, or is it school oversight? So as we think about our opportunities and our strengths, we have a vision moving forward for our after-school programming. We want to ensure that all after-school programs provide a value add across all sites. So we don't want kids just staying after school. We really want to have an impact for them spending extra hours in the school building. We want to increase the social emotional growth of our students. We want to make sure that it has an academic impact, and we want to make sure that it has a positive connection to our school community. We also want to ensure that enrichment activities are available to all students, regardless of their socioeconomic status. We also believe that there is a need for consistency from site to site and student to student. And then we want to provide more district oversight to programming decisions. So as we think about the change management that is involved, that we will tackle for the rest of the year, we want to solicit stakeholder feedback. So we have a vision for what we would like after-school programming to look like, but we really want to be able to talk to stakeholders that participate and benefit from the programming. So we want to make sure that we have feedback sessions with students, teachers, after-school programming staff, as well as parents. We also want to look at some various models across the state to see how other school districts and other after-school programming is implemented in public K-12 school sites. We want to look at possible vendors if we decide that outsourcing is an option for after-school programming. And regardless of what decisions we make, we want to make sure that we have a clear communication plan to families and school staff regarding the proposed changes prior to school ending, so families can make accommodations based on our decisions. So that is it in a nutshell, but we are open to answering any questions that you have. Yes, sir.
I really appreciate the emphasis of the central office on this, because this has been a source of concern that parents have expressed to me. I just want to make sure I understood. So the ASP, you said there was a $30 charge a week, or is that a sliding scale, or is that, how is that done?
That is a sliding scale. So there are funds to support students that cannot pay, but at the most is $30. So it is a sliding scale based on need.
And then my understanding is that in some schools, this is what you were saying, in some schools, they offer additional enrichment programming with an additional fee.
That is correct.
And that fee would go to the provider primarily? Is that, there's a provider who does it, whether it's piano lessons or?
Yes, it's a
whatever.
provider that may be a vendor. In some cases, it may be a teacher that is running a club that the school would pay as a provider. So if a teacher wants to do a cooking club, then they can provide that service to the students, and the ASP or the parents would pay for that teacher to run that club and have that enrichment activity for their child.
Okay. And I'm in terms of where we're at this year, I know that this study has just started. Can we expect much impact this year, or we're just going to have to kind of go with what we've done in the past, and then as we go through this process of talking to stakeholders and I'm sure looking at funding sources as well, can we expect some tweaking throughout the course of the year, or is that just too much to hope for?
So what we want, so it has the least impact on parents, is to leave things the way they are this year. One of the great things about our new Title I director, Hope McGuire, when we interviewed her, she led after-school programming in her district, or part of her work as an assistant principal and working with federal programs. So what Hope wants to do is to make sure that some of the same requirements that we have for the 21st century for approving vendors is the same requirements we have for after-school programming. So we may see tweaks in the quality of the vendor and the programming that they are providing for our students, but we won't see any major changes beyond that, because we really want to take time to learn from parents and teachers and staff about the needs and the vision that they want for the program.
I'll just say one other thing, and then I'll let other board members talk, but this has just been a major concern of mine. I mean, the concerns that I've had from schools out on the east side were that kids would spend too much time at the lunchroom table kind of looking at each other and waiting for the parents to be picked up, or that they would be in the playground area and not necessarily as supervised as much as we would hope, and certainly not engaged in any kind of organized activity. So those are the concerns that have been expressed to me through the years, and so I'm sure you're more aware of that than I am.
So we share those same concerns. I'm glad you brought that up. So part of Hope's role, or Ms. McGuire's role, will be to visit school sites. So there is a minimum expectation around structured recess, homework help. So she will be in schools to ensure that that happens.
Okay.
Are the after-school programs on the individual schools' websites?
That I
Just
cannot.
kind of browsing around to see what's happening at the school. Am I seeing that inventory? Is that something that we could put there to kind of talk about the whole picture of that school?
I'm sure we could work.
That would be real helpful. I'm all about letting people know everything that's happening inside these walls, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That would be good.
Yeah, I want to make a comment. First of all, I'm a big supporter of after-school programs. I can recall when I was doing my graduate work, I did a term paper on latchkey kids. I won't dare get into that when they go home and they aren't studying biology, folks, especially those high school folks. I will say this: the birth rate goes up. That's for sure. But now, in conjunction with what Mr. Greg Davis said a few minutes ago, even if they're sitting in the cafeteria around tables looking at each other, well, it's better than being a latchkey kid. But also adding to that, yes, I like the part where I saw you get feedback from the students, you get feedback from the teachers, and that's good. And then you're looking at other programs throughout the state to come up with some things that will be enriched, to enrich the programs that we have here. But appreciate your hard work on that. Thank you.
I have a question. When you talk about like the vendors and the different programs that are available at after school, how or where
do programs that may not fit on our campus, like, how does that work? So for instance, there are, some schools before have partnered with like the Y or the YWCO, because there are just some programs, for instance, swimming, that maybe we want to be sure that we involve, we want all kids to be represented, and just other activities that may not necessarily be able to fit on our premises. How does creating those partnerships fit within this, or does it? Because I would imagine they wouldn't be really a vendor, but it would be more of a partnership with another after-school site.
So you're exactly right. So one of the problems that we have is that there's not district oversight. So after-school programming is based on the discretion of the principal, right? So principals are working really hard and want really great programs, but as you mentioned, someone doing that legwork to go out to have a partnership with someone that can provide swimming for our kids is something that we believe is the district's work. We have a chief of community engagement. We feel that she making those partnerships is probably what needs to happen. And then partnering with transportation to make that a part of their budget and not a fee for families and students.
Right, and it could be, swimming, it could be drama, theater. We could probably come up with a very extensive list, but in the events that we may not have a vendor in the school, but we may have a program, could be other nonprofits, we may already have a program that exists, figuring out how we partner with those. So I was just hoping that would be a part of, the conversation and the evaluations and moving forward.
So what we hope to gain from our feedback sessions with all of those different stakeholder groups is what we would call the expectation and the floor. So if we talk to students and parents and staff, and we talk about what we would like for our kids to learn how to swim, right? So then that is something that would be a minimum expectation that we would want in after-school programming, and then we at the district office would try to make that happen without it being an additional fee to families, but an expectation of every student that wants to take advantage of that would be afforded that opportunity.
Right, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, Lakeisha, her line of questioning kind of sparked in me the remembrance of back in 2008, 2009, 2010 when I was in Title I. That's where the approval of these providers took place. And at that time, it seemed to me that the bar was fairly high in the sense that if a community organization wanted to come on board, there were just a lot of hoops involved. And this is just my impression. It wasn't necessarily what my portfolio was in terms of my job, but it seemed the ones that got approved were the karate instructor or folks who kind of like did this as a business. Piano lessons, I remember that was being offered to a very select few of students. How many piano lessons can you give? How many students can you cover by piano lessons? So I'm just wondering, are we, even right now, are we fairly open to listening to other organizations who may want to be part of the solution to working with our students? We talk about partnering with our students, and I know my church, we partner with ALPS, and so I go in there as a tutor. But doing it in the context of an after-school program, perhaps if another church would like to adopt the school, and I'm not putting you on the spot because I'm just throwing that out there. If there are opportunities for organizations in the community to say, you know what, we don't want to interrupt the school day for the kids, but we want to engage with kids. And so we'll do the background checks and we'll do some planned activities and we'll work with the central office to make sure they're quality. I'm just throwing that out.
Mr. Davis, there's all the comments. I think what Mr. Gaskins has shared is that will be part of the evaluation process. We're really excited that Ms. McGuire is here. If you remember, the board approved our restructuring of the district office. We never had an administrator that had the direct responsibility for overseeing after-school programming. As you heard in the presentation, we still have to figure out, is it a district oversight issue or site by site? And so Mr. Gaskin's statement of establishing the floor and the ceiling is really important. I think there's also room for us as a leadership team to talk about what's the role of community partnerships, community engagement and strategic partnerships in this work. Ms. Suggs is doing an amazing job in bringing leisure services from ACC government to provide opportunities for the students at games. But we haven't had a deeper conversation with Ms. McGuire, Mr. Gaskins, and others around what does that process look like for her entire department, for our entire school system. So there's a lot of additional work we have to do. We recognize that there have been some missed opportunities with local vendors and just the service delivery model in general. We recognize that we are perpetuating inequity among our schools based on the type of system we currently have, the structure we have in place. The way that we have it structured right now is if you can pay, you get more services. If you can't pay, you don't get those services. So unfortunately, certain schools in our community they simply sit at the cafeteria table or play on the playground that you played on earlier in the day, while other schools have an extensive opportunity. What we've talked about in our preliminary conversations is, and we don't want to take those opportunities away from anyone. So I don't want anyone to walk away thinking that those opportunities won't be available to those schools that are currently enjoying them. What we want to do is find a way to establish, so what is our baseline expectation for all students? And so if that's the expectation for all students, then we want to make sure that everyone has that ability. And then we'll have to look at our financing structure and how we provide that for all kids. But I think, and I want to be very careful about this, because I think in our community, when people hear equity, they believe that means you're going to take something away from someone to make sure that others get it. And that is that's not what equity means. What equity means is if that is the standard in which we have identified for all students, then we have an obligation as the leadership team to determine what that looks like for all kids.
And then I would add that we currently have very flexible requirements for vendors to partner with our schools. The issue, though, is that we want to make sure that when individuals and vendors are partnering with our schools, it's high quality. So we don't want any vendor taking advantage of our families because this can be meant to pick your kid up from their home school. So we want to make sure that we do want you to partner, but there has to be an intended outcome and a value add to your partnership if we're giving you access to our students. It needs to be mutually beneficial.
I'm excited about another system going into place.
Any other questions or? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The third of my 4 reports is an update on the future facilities use report that was provided initially in November of 2018. I've provided a written document to the board. I believe, and I can't see Ms. McGuire now, but I believe we've uploaded this report to the website as well, or
Yes.
will upload it at some point.
No, it's uploaded.
Thank you. I'll just go over the highlights of it, and I'll start with West Broad. It will continue to be my recommendation that the board allow administration to move forward with our proposal to convert the Westboro property into an early learning center. As of today, we have 125 young people who would like access to 4-year-old kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, who are on a waiting list. So all of our seats have, they're occupied, but we still have 125 students who are on a waiting list. And so we believe that there's a need for early learning opportunities in our community. The research continues to show us that one way to accelerate learning for children is to provide them high quality early learning opportunities. The current memorandum of understanding with the Athens Land Trust is set to expire on September 29th. The Land Trust has indicated to us that there have been crops planted and are currently being nurtured that will harvest or come to harvest later in the fall. We believe that it's appropriate for the Land Trust and those individuals who planted those crops to allow that crop to come to harvest. So while the MOU ends on September 29th, we believe that we should allow the Land Trust to allow that harvest to mature and come to harvest. But at that point, we would like to proceed with renovating that facility to becoming an early learning center. The historic building, the building that's on, I believe it was Minor Street, we would propose that it is renovated to have multiple functions. The functions would include a West Side school-based health clinic. It would also include having a student success center. This is a place where students can come and get applications for potential jobs, find out how to register for financial aid, just another, we call it a success center to allow young people to find their pathway from a career and college standpoint. The third function of that building would be meeting space for the community, and then the final function would be historic preservation. So that's our recommendation. We will bring to the board in September, so next month, a recommendation for us to engage with an architect and move forward. If I have permission to speak freely and not speak off of the report, what I would share, and we've talked about this either individually or as a group, I'm making this recommendation not only to reaffirm what we proposed in November, but candidly to move our community forward. I think a lot of people, one way or another, are looking for direction. And it's been hanging out there for a while. You get to a point where you need to know, even if you're going to be disappointed with the recommendation, you just need to know what the recommendation is. So that is our recommendation right now. We believe if we could start construction and renovation of this facility in December of 2019, that it could be available at the latest by January of 2021. That's an important date because we have a rolling waiting list, and so even in January of 2021, there will be students who are prepared to jump into pre-kindergarten and to receive those services. I'll stop there and see if you have any questions.
Dr. Hayes, I don't have a question, but I know from the private committee meeting and also what you said a few minutes ago, we have 35 people on there, children that are on that waiting list. What was that number?
125.
125. And Mr. Payne got into my body because this was something he was adamant about. And I must share with him what's going on with the board pertaining to educating these young people that are on that waiting list, because he talked about that forever. Now the next thing, I know that some systems even track students that are in the early learning program. And the research will show that they score better on these standardized tests. At one time, Clark County was doing that. And hopefully we can do that again to show the proof in terms of what is taking place.
I'm looking at our early learning carries in the back there, and we do track that data. And our students who have access to pre-kindergarten services do perform better academically. So not only is that research a national broad brush, but it's also it's locked in locally. Also in the report that I provided, I also gave you a snapshot of the early childhood needs in this community in particular. And we believe that this is a two-generational solution, because parents or grandparents or families who are caring for young people, they also need high-quality early learning opportunities for their students. And when we're able to offer that type of service to families, that allows them to go to work with more confidence, that allows them to go on and address the issues that they need to address as adults, knowing that their children are getting high-quality education. The last thing I will share, and I'm sure there are more questions, but in November of 2018, there was a charge from the board at the time that said, so what else can you do from a wraparound care standpoint? And that charge was on the heels of, there are families who need, we know that pre-kindergarten starts at a certain time, but there are some families who have preschool and after-school care needs as well for their pre-kindergarten students. We are excited to start the process of thinking about what does that service delivery model look like as well for those families.
I'd like to have an additional copy, and I'm serious because I'm going to take it out and give it to Mr. Payne. Served 40 years on this board.
I was going to say something, so I will get you a copy.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis.
Yes, Dr. Means. I've got three kind of comments or questions. The first is that, you know, as you know, we talked about this before, that, you know, I had this vision of having early learning on the east side. And, you know, I know what, you know, in the process of negotiations over the West Broad property, there was some talk about having 10 classes there and 10 classes on the east side. And so I'm still kind of making that pitch. Now, the last time I raised it, I know we said that the need out there goes beyond who's on the waiting list. And I have no doubt, given our large population, and if we could get all 4-year-olds in the program, would be much better off. But I'm still raising that as a concern of having early learning presence on the east side. Well, my second comment is kind of looking at the drawing, and I really hope that this was just something that someone did late at night. Because you know, if we're talking about 200 kids, and the playground is like, I can't even, I mean, my thumb would completely cover it over, you know, in terms of this drawing. So, but the parking is huge, and so I'm just, you know, obviously I'm not an architect, and it's not my business to build buildings for the school district, but I am concerned. I would like to see a large play area that can engage kids in a meaningful and creative way, and that's not reflected here. And not too many of them are going to be driving to pre-K. My third comment is more of a question. Would we be willing as a district to designate the building on Minor Street as a historic landmark officially, and to work with the Historic Preservation Commission? Is that something that you're amenable to? I'm not asking you to commit, but is that something that you are open to discussing?
There have been initial conversations at the Community Oversight Committee with our, Mr. Wilson? Is he still the chair? Okay. The former chair, Mr. Wilson, and I have had that conversation. So yes, we're open to that, making that designation for that board.
I think it's already on the national register.
But I think
You wanna
within the
make it
community.
local?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking local.
Yeah.
Because I think that the opportunity, my understanding is that this building that we're in right now, we didn't have the opportunity to do that because of the way it was built, and the structure underneath this building did not lend itself to maintaining a true rendition of the historic nature of this building. Whereas the building on Minor Street has a much firmer foundation and thus can actually maintain the historic both inside and outside. So that's what
Mr. Davis, I think you're right. We agree with you. I think that's what we want to bring to the board to get this process started in September. That's why I wanted to bring it to you tonight. So you have a month to chew on it. But we believe that it's important for you to approve the architectural firm so you in essence will green light this project. We have to start. And I think once we have an architect, our architect did draw up those renderings. I have some skills. I don't have many skills to draw up a rendering, but I think your feedback is important. We will share, if approved in September, we'll share with the architects that we want to make sure that we have plenty of green space for play, not only for the children who are there during the day, but for the community after school, right? And so that's important. And then the last thing I would share with you is we are aligned. I think having some type of continuing this vision of having an Office of Early Learning sites on the east side, or at least a site, is something that we don't want to let go, and it will be part of my vision for SPLOS 6. We're currently in the middle of SPLOS 5. We're starting to put together our agenda that we will go to the community for with SPLOS 6. I think having a site on the east side is something that we don't want to forget about.
Mr. Superintendent, I don't see the anticipated cost, but where does it, would there be another document that shows where the funding would be coming from?
It's SPLOS 5.
SPLOS 5.
Yes, ma'am.
And if I'm not mistaken, the process moving forward, that will include community input, and as far as like what actually ends up, like what the result is.
Once we present to you the action item, which would include the architect and moving forward with this project, and I'm really excited about this. Since this is will be a community facility, we would engage the community around what is the design, what does the playground size look like, what type of playground equipment you will have. It will be the same process that we would use with a school. The only difference is that they have built-in local school governance teams. We would reach out to the members of the community surrounding West Broad to make sure that they're at the table to help us with the design.
I have just a really dumb question. In the rendering, here's this long building. Are those the classrooms? Yes. Okay, good, thank you.
There are other items in this report, and I'll just go over them briefly, but we're really excited about the investment in athletic facilities at our two high schools. They are woefully needed. I think you moved on the consent agenda item tonight, a $350,000 investment at Cedar Shoals. Eventually, Dr. Madden spoke about this earlier in her report, but just to give you a perspective, the the softball field, and I think we had the softball players here a few months ago from Clark Central. That facility was woefully kept up, and it was not commensurate with what we want our student athletes to have. At Clark Central, since it's a landlocked facility, the football team actually practices on the baseball field sometimes. And we've talked about the track and field component of things. We haven't invested in those areas. And I know sometimes people will listen to this and say, well, this is all about athletics, but it's not. A few weeks ago, as we were in the pre-planning moment of starting school, I'll never forget, I saw the marching band for Clark Central marching in the parking lot. You don't want kids marching, practicing the marching band work in the parking lot. Ideally, if you have a turf field, they would be on that field, and they would have access to it just like anyone else. It will improve physical education opportunities, and so we're really excited about that component of our facilities report. I'll stop there and see if you have any questions. I don't want to go too quickly. I want to make sure you have time.
Girls softball field. Yes, that's what we're going. That's number Title IX. I dealt with that as a high school principal. I was reading the report. I guess you have the best way. Huntsville, Alabama. Difference between males athletic facilities and females. Super foul, you know who won it, okay? Title IX, so let's move on that quickly. I support that 100%.
Yes, sir.
Is that part of the $350,000?
So each high school will receive $2 million. We've worked with their high school principal and athletic directors to identify their greatest area of need, and they've been telling us what they would like to see happen on their campus. So the projects will be different at the two high schools because they have different needs.
And to be clear, the athletic directors are also working with the individuals in the schools, like to get their feedback.
So it should be the same process from an engagement standpoint, that athletic directors should be working with the booster clubs and other stakeholders to get feedback. Yes, ma'am. And then the last component to the future facilities report update that we provided is just where are we with School C? Our legal counsel has been very clear to us and will continue to remind us that any time the school district places an item on an agenda for a SPLOST vote, we have an obligation as a school district to make sure that it happens and that it's completed. You literally have to go back to the public to say, we're not going to do this, and inform them if you're not going to complete a project. So nearly 10 years ago, we said that we were going to build School C, which would have been a school on the west side. We haven't built that school, and subsequently, our planning around other facilities have been impacted by this. So we, for example, built Whitehead Road Elementary School as large as it is because of the lack of having School C. Oglethorpe Elementary School is larger than our other elementary schools because we haven't built School C. It's our recommendation right now that we can't say we're never going to build School C, but I would recommend that we place it on moratorium, and we at least address the building needs of our schools currently that we currently have. There are 5 schools in particular that have needs. Those schools include Gaines, which you're acting on tonight, around a modular unit for that school, Chase Street, J.J. Harris, Timothy, and McDavis. As Mr. Worthy would say, we'll never get rid of modulars. We'll always have needs for modulars, but those 5 schools in particular have a lot of modulars, and we want to try to pare that down. We also understand, and that's why it's important for us to work with the architect, that when you expand capacity of a school, it also impacts what's the size of your media center and your cafeteria. because you're in essence saying as a school system, you can serve this many students. And so those other common areas may have to be renovated as well if you're going to add on to those 5 schools. But it's our recommendation, and we'll bring that forward to you in the next few months, that we start the process of looking at Chase and also Gaines. We've received some concerns from neighbors around Chase that the appearance of a modular is less than appealing for them. It doesn't blend in with the full building itself, and I respect that perspective. We know that modulars, and we have a nicer modular setup for Gaines, but that doesn't substitute having an addition to the school and making sure that it's part of the school. And so that's our recommendation as well, as we look at imminent and near projects for our SPLOST 5 agenda.
5 or 6?
5.
5, okay.
So all of these projects that we've listed here are SPLOST 5 projects.
Yeah. When you look, and that's what I was going to ask you, Dr. Reeves, because some of them are specified as SPLOST 6 on the sheet.
So the two that we're recommending that we address right now, Chase and Gaines, we would want to do that within SPLOST 5. The other 3 we would wait and move into SPLOST 6. SPLOST 5 ends in 2022, so it's, we're midway through SPLOST 5 right now.
Okay, when this was first talked about, maybe because the money we're just running out of money, maybe. The impression I got when this was first raised at the COC meeting was that we're going to move ahead, but everything's finite. So,
Chase and Gaines is our areas of greatest need. We don't want to get in a mode of getting too comfortable with modulars. Chase is in a second year of it right now, and the population hasn't gone down. In fact, it continued, and this is a good thing. They have a healthy enrollment at Chase Street. Gaines also has a healthy enrollment, and so we know that the needs for facilities aren't going away with those 2 schools. Some of the other schools, they have their what we call special teachers, our early intervention prevention teachers, or EIP teachers, and other support teachers in those modulars outside. We were most concerned about Chase and Gaines right now because that's where general education classes were being placed. And so we believe that that's most important right now.
So I think it's good. You're going to bring us a recommendation at some point on Chase. We're not talking about Chase.
It'll come later this fall. This is an overview of the things that are coming. Yes, ma'am.
A warning. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I guess the last thing I would share with you is not in your report right now, but I'll share with the community and board. We're continuing to move forward with trying to find a district office. The board has given me direct criteria, which I appreciate, the guidance. And one of the components of guidance was make sure that the district office is in a prominent area of the community, that's on a bus line so people can access the district office, and that it's a place where we don't have to continue to move, that it's prominent and permanent. But I appreciate the statement from Dr. Knotts earlier, which is, well, we don't want a Taj Mahal either. I don't think any of us want to be in a space where the community sits back and says, this is how you've used our tax dollars, we've built this elaborate space. And so we're approaching this from a very prudent standpoint, but efficient standpoint. We don't want something that's going to be elaborate, but at the same time, we want to make sure that it's going to be permanent, that it's in a prominent area of the community, and that we can be proud that you can point to and say, this is where the district office is.
Like for it to be something that lasts a couple hundred years, so whatever that takes, I think it needs to have, again, not
We will be prudent, fiscally prudent, efficient, and not elaborate. So it'll be a nice place, but we're not going to, I think it'll be a place where the board and community can be proud of, but at the same time, it's, people can say we were diligent with public funds.
And I'll just piggyback off of that and say, and it has enough room to grow if it needs to, but not so much that we're going to grow administration indiscriminately.
Correct. Yes, sir. Yes.
I would like to adopt a moratorium that administration grows according to the needs of serving the schools in this district, the kids in this district. I'm not ashamed of adding personnel to take care of what we need to do to move this achievement count.
I just wanted to add, or have you add, why we can't stay in this space and what moving from this space will do for the career academy.
Thank you, Dr. Dyke. We have an extra 100 students enrolled in the Athens Community Career Academy this year. So there are well over 300 students enrolled at the Career Academy, which is this location. They need classroom space, so all the areas in which we currently use as offices and meeting areas in this facility could go to the Career Academy and our students. If you've been here any time during the day, any part of the day, it's very difficult to park. As we grow with the Career Academy, and we want to grow our Career Academy, more of our students are going to drive. Currently, Mr. Lawrence Harris indicated to me that he has 65 students who are waiting on some type of parking pass. I think that would take up most of the spaces out there right now. So we being the district office, we are limiting the growth of the Career Academy by remaining in this facility. So the sooner we can, Mr. Lawrence is very nice, but he says, the sooner you can leave, the better. And it's for kids. It's for kids' sake. They can grow programs. They can be more creative and innovative with the space. So that's just the update on facilities. So we'll bring more items, and you'll see more items on the September agenda. I just didn't want to surprise the board or the community with recommendations. And we have time to talk offline if you have other questions. And again, this report, we have a hard copy. It's uploaded to the website. The last thing I will share with you is that the data around our performance in the Georgia milestones is no longer embargoed. And so we've created a report. We will have hard copies of this report available for the community next week, Wednesday. We'll have to go to press and we'll make them available if you want to come to the district office and pick it up, or if you want to call Ms. Lisa Palmer and reserve a hard copy, you may. I understand everyone isn't electronic and using the website. I think sometimes we say that too quickly. But in this report, we talk about the complexity of this work in our district. And the complexity of the work in our district is this. And again, I think my messaging has, maybe hasn't resonated with people the way it should. I'm concerned about all students and all achievements, just not certain groups. But I'm going to come back to those certain groups in a second. I'm concerned that on average, all of our students our district is performing below the state average on the milestones. It doesn't matter if you are a white student or a black student, a Hispanic student or an Asian student. Only a third of our students are proficient across the board. We have some instances where there are students who are identified as gifted who are not proficient. That's in this document, which is a concern. So we're failing, I believe, as a system, all students. It doesn't matter if you are a white female student who comes from a two-parent home and your parents have multiple degrees. we're finding that those kids are taking advanced placement courses and they're getting 2s and 1s. Those are the scores, and that shouldn't be the case. We also know that there are other achievement gaps in our district. And so on the intro page, I clearly state that yes, we're underachieving for all of our kids, and that we have to do a better job in serving our students, but in particular, when you look at the achievement of African American and Hispanic students, it's alarming. On average, a white student is 3.4 grade levels ahead of a black student. So you can take the average white student and the average black student, and that's the gap that we have. In some of our schools, in fact, some of our schools that we're most proud of from their performance in the aggregate, there is a racial achievement gap of 70 points or greater. In other words, we have the same students entering the schoolhouse door, and they're having a drastically different experience. And so that's no one's fault. I'm not pointing this out to place blame anywhere, but part of the process of change management from an equity lens, I believe it takes 4 different steps. The first step is for the service providers, the teachers, the administrators, the people who work inside our schools to face the reality that we work in a community where there's a lot of poverty. And that's not an excuse, but I believe that should be even a greater level of urgency to get those kids out of poverty themselves. And we know that the pathway to get out of poverty is through education, which makes the role of the educator even more important. The second step is to align the work that we have to do to our equity lens. In other words, if you truly believe that all students can learn, then your actions have to align with it. It can't be a situation where you say it, but then your actions are different. It can't be, and I've learned this term from someone, Dr. Thomas taught me, she's Athens native. She taught me that there's a term in the South called bless your heart. and so when people say bless your heart, that she said, well, if someone says bless your heart to you demand in a meeting, beware. That means they're blessing your heart and you don't understand what they've said to you as a Yankee. But we have to move beyond fixating on our challenges. And I think so often that's what we do. We know we have the challenges. And we believe as a district team, we failed our teachers in not creating the district conditions to help them be the very best they can be. So I think the messaging that people are hearing is getting confused. We have amazing teachers who are doing amazing work, but they're working hard on the things that we don't believe will uplift achievement for all kids, but in particular the kids who are in this trapped in this achievement area. The third piece is then to really focus on, the third step is to focus on good teaching and learning, and making sure that instruction really looks focused and is focused on results. And you may say, well, you can't get results when you have children who are in poverty. And I'm so proud of Howard B. Stroud because they saw a leap of 12 points. They grew 12 points from 2018 to 2019 in ELA, in English language arts on the milestones. We made sure that we got Dr. Jennifer Scott in the district office because Barnett Scholes grew 11 points with their ELA scores. Double-digit scores can happen across our district if you have leadership and a staff that is focused on teaching differently. I think what we've been doing is something that is commendable. People have been working hard, but we believe that there is a plan that can really uplift our teachers and our staff even to higher heights. Ms. Duke, if you could just show the spreadsheet, and it's in this document, and I know it'll be hard to see. The concern that we have is that, again, when you compare the state average, and we felt that maybe we should just start with comparing our performance to the state. When you compare what our performance as a school district looks like compared to the state, we are drastically, we're behind. We're underperforming. But our racial achievement gap in this district is alarming, because when you look at our white students, they are outperforming the state average. And when you look at our African American students, who represent 49%, almost half of our district, they are not only behind the state average and the district average, but they're also underperforming their counterparts across the state. So to say that again, if you are a white student, you're not only outperforming the district and the state, but you're outperforming other white students in the state of Georgia. So generally speaking, the performance is solid, but I'm not satisfied with our white student performance either. I'm not satisfied with only 56% of our third graders, for example, of white students being proficient. That's disturbing. I want that to be higher. And so when I say all means all. But it gets even more concerning when you look at that same third grade group and African American students, which is half of the population. Only 15% of those students are proficient. And so I point this data out not to fixate on it and to dwell on it, but to say this should be a clarion call for urgency and for us to look at doing our jobs differently. And so you'll see that in this document. We've also created something called Career and College Indicators of Success. And so we've created indicators that highlight what we believe tracks if students are moving along and becoming proficient. And so that data is in here as well. We also have something called the profile of a Ccsd graduate. I think this is really important. I've heard this discussed. Mr. Johnson, Tim Johnson and I were at a community meeting earlier this week, and we talked about that there was a push in this community, in this district, to have students graduate from high school. I, as a former high school administrator and teacher, there's a difference between graduating from high school and having the right coursework to be successful after you graduate from high school. And so we worked with our curricular coordinators. So these are the leaders in charge of reading, math, science, social studies, and also our counseling team to say, so what type of coursework, what type of profile should a student have if they're going to graduate and be successful after leaving Clark County? And you will see, it is hard to see, but it's on page 40 of this report when you read it. We have laid out what type of courses you should take. It includes taking 4 years of math and 4 years of having lab science. The research shows that you should have a lab science. That if you persist to the point where you are taking lab sciences, you will do well. That you should have 2 years of a world language. That you should have a 2.75 GPA at least. This profile is not rigorous. And when you see the profile, it's a profile that candidly, unfortunately, it still won't get a student into the University of Georgia. But not even close. But you will at least be prepared to compete post-secondary. And you will see, unfortunately, that overall as a district, only 4.8% of our students took what our curricular coordinators consider to be a rigorous course load last year. So of all the students who walked across the stage and graduated, only 5% of them took the most rigorous pathway of coursework when they were here with us. Another 29 or 30% took the Model B level of courses. Ironically, that percentage, when you take Model A and Model B, it mirrors what you see with the proficiency rate is throughout the school district from 3rd grade on with reading, math, and so on. And in essence, we've been educating a third of the school system extremely, well, proficiently well. I wouldn't say extremely well, even those students are not reaching their full potential, regardless of their racial background, regardless of their socioeconomic status. 2/3 are not. And so what I would like to do is, and you have a hard copy of the board, what I would like to do is spend more time at our work sessions and unpack this so we can continue to talk about it. This is not, I wanted to just introduce it tonight to the board and to the community to say that when I communicate with our team and everything that I do, it's with a level of love for our kids, love and respect for the staff that are working as hard as they know. But please know that we have a team that is excited to introduce new methodologies and new strategies. We are learning as much as we can so that we can pour it back into our staff, so then the staff pours it into the kids. There's a page here that we talk about transformation, and we lay out some of the things that we're doing to improve our work. Change is hard for people. We're asking change in terms of how we do our work, but we're asking for that change, not to do it for change's sake, but to move that proficiency rate from 1/3 to something higher.
Thank you for this sobering report.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Dr. Means, yes, thank you. I got a friendly amendment. We've got this color coded very nicely, but if we had a description of what each color represents, I think that would help. Okay. We've gone over it as a board, but I think for the community to better understand what they're looking at.
Yes, sir.
Other questions or thoughts about the information that's been presented?
I just really appreciate the hard copy. I like looking at it online because I can make it fit that way. But thank you for the hard copy. This is something that I can actually use this as my reference to go and look for. And I'm really have to look at last year's plan this year. Yeah. I got one way.
We have the right team in place. They didn't get a chance to speak with Dr. Scott. You raise your hand, Dr. Scott. That's the owner of the double-digit improvements at our school from 18 to 19. Yeah, that deserves a round of applause. Hope McGuire is overseeing our title dollars, and she has an instructional lens, and so I'm excited about having, she's even said it multiple times, I want to push into the community and find out what service providers are out there in the community. I want to be able to talk with parents at parent nights. I think in the past our Title I parent nights have been perfunctory and kind of here, sign this document so then we could say that we had a Title I night. I think parents should prepare to hear from Ms. McGuire. And she's shaking her head, yes. And I think we've all been appreciative and all of the work that Mr. Gaskins has brought, the clarity and the focus and the positivity that he's brought to our team. He has supported our principals well. I think the way that we've structured ourselves, principals know who to call, and that's a very big, that's big. When principals feel comfortable in knowing that, okay, Dr. Scott's my person, and now I can ask a question on how to improve service to kids in a classroom because I have a person. We didn't have that before. And so we have a leader in our chief academic officer who not only understands and has done this work of transformation, but he has brought other members of our team together. So Ms. Duke and Mr. Gaskins are a duo. They are a team. They work very closely together because we know that there's a nexus between human resources and teaching well. Mr. Gaskins and Dr. Myers are meeting tomorrow to talk about the connection of social emotional learning and academics and making sure that works well. So he's kind of become this center of the orbit for what we do, because instruction should be the key. But we're doing all of this work. We're doing all of this work with the idea that we can get better. That a third proficiency is unacceptable for all kids. But if we drill down deeper, and like we like to say within our district offices, if we're going to call a thing, we have to realize that over 70% of all of our kids are black and brown kids. And those kids, all of our kids are underperforming, but in particular, we are failing those 70% of our kids. And you'll see in this report, we know that while the demographics of this community is fairly split, I mean, it's fairly 50-50 between white residents and residents of color, when you look at the demographics of the school district, it is very different. And so I believe that that's an exciting opportunity for us to say, we have a lot of work to do, but we also have a civic obligation to uplift Athens, because the people who need education the most are coming to the public schools. We serve about 89% of all the school-age children in this community. And we serve virtually all of the children of color in this community. So I come to work every day with an added burden of making sure that we uplift all of our kids, but in particular the kids who, and I've said this before at board meetings, their parents may never come to a board meeting, they will never email you, they will never email me, but they love their kids just as much as the people who do email us. They love their kids just as much as the people who have the ability to come to these meetings. And so we collectively as a team believe that it's, and we know that your hearts are also in that place. We collectively as a governing team, as an administrative team, we have an obligation to make sure that we're focused on nothing more, not the noise, but the uplifting that 2/3 who are not proficient and making sure that they move and grow. That's the conclusion of my report.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments before moving on? All right, so that takes us to our consent agenda and discussion. As you can see, we have several items. The action to approve field trips, the action to approve modular classroom for games, termination of the contract, approving the budget amount, $350,000 for Cedar, Shoals in the gym and locker room, and then the action to approve the professional development contract with the University of Georgia. Is there a motion to, because it's on consent, so we can entertain the motion and then we can, if there are any questions.
Okay.
No, we can't. Approve.
I move that we adopt the consent agenda. All items.
Second.
Motion and second. All right. All right, all in favor? And is that one who did not vote? Okay. All right, moving on to personnel recommendations.
Madam President, I will say it again, because I know Mr. Davis has asked for this data. But as of today, we have 12 vacancies open in our teaching vacancies. Congratulations, Ms. Duke. And that's lower than we had last year. I mean, so we feel good about having only 12 vacancies. We wish we were fully staffed. Of the 12 vacancies, 9.5 of those vacancies are special education teachers. So the competition for special education teachers is fierce across the state. We are short 7 drivers. Mr. Weaver has said that if he has 152 drivers, he's fully staffed. So we're 7 away from being fully staffed in our transportation department. We have 3 vacancies still in school nutrition. We have 11 vacancies in our custodial team. It's really difficult for us to compete with the University of Georgia for custodial staff. They being the University of Georgia, pay into the TRS, the teacher retirement system, where we don't. We believe that somewhere the Board of Regents found a way to allow the custodial staff at UGA to receive TRS, but our staff do not. And so you see there are people who flip back and forth from UGA to our space because of that component.
And that's something.
And they pay more as well. They do pay more. They do also pay more in addition to the TRS. And then we have 16 para vacancies. So again, from a teacher perspective, we are not satisfied with having 12 vacancies, but understanding that 9.5 of the 12 vacancies, 9.5 are special ed vacancies. It's understandable. We are continuing to track our turnover rate. We'll have that data for you in the next few weeks. As I stated at the work session, we believe that we'll continue to track along the national average. There's just a crisis. I think it was in the news this week, a PDK international survey of teachers, and it's just difficult to keep staff in the profession right now. It's just I'll get a copy of that survey and the analysis of the survey. It's just it's very competitive to find teachers, and I appreciate in the past Mr. Davis has made this statement. If you've got to come back to the board and ask for more resources to recruit and to retain people, let us know. That has not fallen on deaf ears, and Ms. Duke she's inventive and creative, and I think in the next few months we'll have, when we give that overall report in October, we'll have some suggestions as well. But I know Mr. Davis asked for that data, so he wanted it by category, so that's what we're on.
I have to just make a pitch for the custodial team that they really have asked for some considerations.
Yes. So we would be talking millions of extra dollars to pay people the way we want to pay. And so I appreciate you not blinking as a board. That we can bring you numbers to give you a perspective of what it would cost to take care of our people. We want to. So we'll bring that to you.
That's important. I think that's critical. I mean, when we're talking about poverty and some of the structural stuff that's helping maintain the cycle that we see.
Right. Yes, ma'am. I want to make a comment here because before Mr. Larry Hammer left us, he said this in the finance meeting. I don't think it's been said publicly that in the next year or two, the state budget is going to be cut. And it is, because I just read this week for 2020, 4%. You look at 4%, you're talking millions. Now, the following year, 6%. So let's keep that in mind, because I'm already anticipating looking at the budget for, what is this? We're going into the 2019-20 school term, and the next term is probably going to hit us. But he did say now that the economy is, what I say, he referred to the governor,
You're referring to, Mr. Worthy, you're referring to Clark Central graduate Bryan County.
Yes. Yes, that the economy is continuing to grow, but he's already asking state agencies, look at your budget because it's going to be cut.
Just as a point of order, Mr. Worthy, Dr. Maddox reminded me that if he was a Cedar Shoals we're at, we would talk about cuts. Sorry. But in all seriousness, Ms. Suggs, who has tracked this and lobbied for many years under the Gold Dome, just sent an email to our cabinet yesterday indicating that Governor Kemp has asked that all state agencies submit an amended budget for their fiscal year 20 budgets to cut those budgets by 4%, and that fiscal year 21 requests will be cut by 6%. We're not sure if that will require or mean that the QBE will be addressed, but we are aware that maybe we won't see a mid-year adjustment the way that we have in the past, and that fiscal year 21 could be tight. If you remember, it was uncomfortable for Mr. Hamill and I to bring you a condensed timeline around the budget this year, but the budget, it took a long time. The budget was not solidified by the legislature until mid-May. In fact, it was passed, I believe, on a Tuesday. We came to you on a Thursday to say, okay, we now have a state budget. So I think we should brace ourselves for some interesting times ahead and uncertainty with fiscal year 20.
Mr. Davis.
Yes, I do appreciate the numbers, Dr. Maines, but I think in terms of what I would like to see, and I'm building on what Linda said, and also I'm aware of what Ms. Bagby said about conflict of interest. I've been a member of Economic Justice Coalition, which is the living wage movement, way before I got involved with this board. And, I've been to protest getting the city the county to pay a living wage, and I've gone to UGA protests to get UGA to pay a living wage, and we're not doing it here. And I think that needs to be acknowledged, and I think Linda's acknowledging that we don't. UGA is their full-time, their starting wage is $25,500 for a full-time employee. And that's regardless of what the classification is. And that, I know that's going to be hard for us to match. But I think that we need to acknowledge the fact that, as we propel students to be successful, we also want to empower parents, because that's who works in our schools, are parents. So
I shared with, so yes, we can bring you that data. I don't want us to forget about the fact that we talked about pre-K earlier tonight. Our pre-K teachers are not paid at the same rate as kindergarten teachers, and so that's an entire, and I know that's been part of our legislative agenda in the past. So Ms. Duke and I can bring you numbers, and then I think it will allow us to have a conversation about, so what are we going to do about it? It's one thing to say, here's the gap. It's another to put something in action. So.
And when you say bring us the numbers, that's including like average pay for a classified, like several of the people that we've named and the titles are classified.
Ms. Duke already has a lot of these numbers,
Okay.
because it bothers her from an equity standpoint that some of our hardest and most loyal employees are the least paid, and they don't have a living wage, and yes, they are our parents as well. So what we will do is we'll bring you the figures of how much more we would need to bring our staff to a certain wage. There's a certain dollar amount that I would like to have all of our employees, we're able to say, here's the starting wage in this district, no matter what job you have. But it's going to costs money for us to get there, and we'll bring you those figures.
That would be great. Looking forward to that.
Thank you. Okay, so let's see, where are we? Personnel recommendations. Okay, I'm sorry. My computer is. Okay. I was back on field trips. All right, so our August. What was that, Mr. Davis?
All the personnel recommendations, do they have to be done each individually?
I think we normally do them individually.
But we could do them all together. We discussed all of this last week.
We did. We can do them all together if there's a motion approved to do
I
them.
will make a motion that we do all these together. I think that the public needs to understand that when we talk about appointment of a district hearing officer and ADA coordinator and all that, that's not an extra position. I mean, that's just, and the same thing goes with equal opportunity coordinator. So these are simply titled another hats that our staff or
Other duties as assigned, yes.
Right. So I would recommend that I make a motion that all these be accepted together.
Second.
All right. Let's see, any discussion on these? I will say that I am not comfortable making a habit out of that because there may be a variety of different, personnel reports, and sometimes there, like positions that may be all, into the one report. So I don't know that addresses it, or if there's another question coming as far as like teasing out leadership positions or district positions and school-based positions. But I just wanted to sort of register that comment. I'm okay with it and respect the vote of the board tonight, but I wanted to register that comment.
And I'd like to just commend the wonderful staff who take on these responsibilities in addition to the other things. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion on the table to adopt all of these or approve all of these at one time. And there was a second? Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Okay.
Madam President, Dr. Maddox did remind me, so part of your vote was to have a principal selected at Alps Road Elementary School. Audra Alakoya will become, per your vote, the new principal at Alps Road. She's currently an assistant principal in DeKalb County. I had a chance to do the reference checks myself, and she's excited to be here. We want her to give her school system a 2-week notice, but she will start in 2 weeks. There are 2 teacher leaders at Alps Road who have taken on the additional challenge of being the day-to-day leaders of Alps. They'll do that for 2 more weeks, in addition to being supported by Mr. Michael Harris, who is our Executive Director of Talent Management. So we'll get through the 2 weeks, and then we'll have a leader there, which gives me a pivot, if you don't mind. We still have a vacancy at Fowler Drive in the principalship role there, but we are extremely lucky to have Dr. Angela Hardiman there as the interim principal. We're continuing the search. I shared with the board earlier today that we're talking about doing things outside of the box to recruit and try to find a talented person to fill that role. So Ms. Hardiman, Dr. Hardiman will be there for the near future. She loves Fowler, and she's not going to leave them in the lurch, but we know we have some work to do to find a permanent principal.
So regarding that, I'm wondering, as we get reports with numbers and things like that in the future, this is not necessarily a retention issue, but for me, I would like to know, like as we have applicants for particularly our leadership positions, but then also teacher positions and staff positions, the percentage of those individuals that are in our community, that are Athens people, that are in sort of surrounding counties, just to give us, give us as a board just a better snapshot of who's applying. And I think this relates to our conversation at some point, you know, about being sure that we are tapping into the talent that already exists within our district and within our, you know, within our city. So,
And so that, Ms. Duke and I have been talking about that request. We understand that that's out there. We do need to, I would prefer and feel more comfortable to also include our legal counsel in that conversation, because we're straddling a pretty close line of, we want to make sure that when we post a position, we're not sending a message that only certain people can apply.
Sure.
And so, but yeah, let's gather that data, but at the same time, I would be curious to hear what our legal counsel has to say in regards to what else does that look like. Most districts, especially a district our size and our location, you are trying to recruit talent to come to you, and at the same time, you're trying to build your capacity internally. If you remember last week, we've done three things. We are creating, we have a principal pipeline internally for people who want to be leaders. We are working with Dr. Morgan Faison from the University of Georgia to create our own teachers from this community. But we're also being aggressive in trying to draw the best talent to our community to serve our kids. And so, yes, we'll gather all of that data, but I want to make sure that we're all cognizant of making sure we walk a straight line in regards to gathering the right data.
Yeah, and you know, like with the principal pipeline, you know, it's just sort of, you know, we have that, and once we build the infrastructure for that, then, you know, a natural assumption would be at some point those individuals will be qualified to meet some of the vacancies that we have, or else the goals of that program are not effective.
I could add too, in terms of people applying, and I get it, because they are from here, but is there some direction that we can put that lets people understand who we are and what our talent, what we're looking for in terms of our talent pool? Is there some message that we can get out to on the recruitment videos, I would think, because I can't help you with people, there's a problem with the internet, but just something that lets them zero in on, you know, am I a fit for this district? So, but that level of, I guess, not transparency, but just, again, specific, kind of the specific things that are important to us as we transition into this awesome model school district that we're in.
That's my main concern, is that, without saying too much, people who apply, you know, who's been here for years, especially in assistant principal positions, you know, how do we cultivate a program where if they are not a good fit, because as we've stated, you know, talked about before, we have a new paradigm shift now. So maybe they were a right fit with the previous administration and what they expected, but for them to be here, some of them 15 years, and, you know, I don't want to say too much, years, and now they cannot move up from assistant principal to principal, but we bring people in constantly from other places, and we'll take a chance with those persons, but not people who have dedicated their lives to this district. I don't know, I just have an issue with that, you know, unless we can find a way to work better with these people so that they can get trained. You know, is there anything in that pipeline, does that include things like that?
So we've been sharing with assistant principals who don't get the jobs that they apply for, is that they are not a candidate at this time. And that I think I shared with you a few months ago, the competencies that we are looking for in a principal, and we're sharing with them that if they would go through our emerging leader program, we will show you what these competencies look like in action. We will build your capacity. And so we're happy that some of our assistant principals who were not successful in getting jobs have said, yeah, I'll go through that program. I want to learn how I can be a better fit. Some have said no. And so I don't know what message that sends to us, but we keep that door open for individuals if they want to learn and grow.
We believe that these competencies are based in research of saying, here's what the research shows from the Wallace Foundation and other groups that have said this is what a transformational principal looks like. We want to move from being a principal who is, and then when I was a principal, it was more about how do you manage your school. Are the kids getting to class on time? Do the buses get to school and leave on time? And we want individuals who can do that work and be instructional leaders. And that's a hard term for some people. But we're ready to coach them up. And we want to coach people up. And we want to coach people up who are here first.
Mr. Davis.
Yeah, just one comment. In October, I'm assuming that that's where we would have a more healthy discussion around this topic. What I did notice anecdotally is, and this kind of reminded me of what Avita was saying for years, she was on the board of Avita Warren, is that there were folks who were in the surrounding areas who would, like to teach in Clark County and have been overlooked. When I looked through some of our lists this time, it seemed like that there were a good number of those folks who were coming in with 3, 4, 5, 6 years experience coming from the surrounding area. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing what the data showed, if there's some truth to that.
It's interesting, when we had our new teacher orientation, I asked the question, how many of you are neophytes to the profession? And it was about half. The other half were people coming from other districts. So I'm excited that someone like Ms. McGuire and the people we have hired, they're saying that they came and they applied and they wanted to be here because we have a social media footprint as a school system. People watch our board meetings. They read articles in the paper. They know who we are, and they're filtering through those items. They're looking at documents we're putting out and what stance we take, and they're saying we want to work in that space. And so the people who are coming to us, that's based on they've watched our board meetings, they've read our documents, and they've said, I'm aligned to this work. And so we are happy to have those individuals, and yes, we'll dig into this. Ms. Duke and I are looking forward to the October report.
Thank you. So I think that brings us to the end. Is there a motion for adjourning our meeting? Okay, sorry.
Miss Madam Chair, I'm so sorry. I don't know where this fits, but I've had some emotional challenges since the last meeting. Okay. And I actually, wrote a statement this time, so I just won't talk out. Sure. But it has to do with the last meeting we had, and I was going to meet this at the work session last week, but I thought it would be better doing this meeting. And it has to do with, one, I want to say this. This was an awesome board meeting night, and I love the report. It was, we got back to the children tonight, and I have been, I look back over the summer, and I said to myself, I think I may have mentioned to you, I said, I don't even know where we are with everything as it relates to the children, because there have been so much noise this summer that, I've just been conflicted the entire summer. And, but the last board meeting really disturbed me. And I'm just going to read this. We don't get harmony when everybody sings the same note. Only notes that are different can harmonize. The same is true with people. Steve Gotti. And I just want the public to recognize that we are different on this board. We have different skill sets, which are very important to the work that we do. And I first want to say to Greg and John especially, but to all the white people on this board, that last month I made the statement that the racial tension in this community and the racial tension on the board has to stop. And I think that some people may have taken that the wrong way. And I hope that those comments tonight didn't reflect that on me, but I was not referring, or not saying in any way that the white people on this board are the ones that are making a divide, and I definitely wasn't saying that Greg nor John, because of the way that they voted for the extension of the superintendent. Because it wasn't that they voted against the extension, they asked for a postponement, which I agreed with exactly everything that Greg said. And I explained why I voted the way that I did. And so I wanted to make sure that I said that publicly, because I enjoy working with you all. I feel that we have a good working relationship, but there has been so much social media press, campaigns, a lot of things, a lot of information out there that's presenting narratives that are just not true from where I sit. We ask questions that I feel are fair. I don't know what happened in the previous board. I came on this board because I wanted to do all that I could for children. That's something I've done all my life. And I do it with integrity, everything that I do. And so I just want to say to you as board members, we can't help what other people say. I've been lied on, like straight lied on. It was even said in the video that I didn't really get my degree, my doctorate. Just all kind of weird stuff. We can't worry about that. We need to stay focused on the children in this district. I have worked with each one of you, and I feel that we collectively, that we have the children's best interests at heart. And a lot of times people from the outside don't have all the intricate details of what's going on, what decisions have to be made, and they make assumptions about a lot of things. I'm glad we're moving on with West Broad. I want y'all to know that. Because people have lied on me and said I'm trying to deter the board from that. It's just not fair to the board when people are spreading things that are not true. And then it's not fair when people don't do their research to make sure what is being said is true. So I just ask that as we work together as a team of 10, there's conflict on both sides at times. But all of us have to self-reflect, as I stated in here, and do what we can to do the best we can with the information we have for these children. So board members, do not get weary, do not give up, do not quit. People will talk, but we have to do the best we can to work with Dr. Means and I don't know how we can erase this narrative, but I see us as working well, and it's an opportunity for us to work well with him and to do great things for this district. And let's just continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Maddox. I heard it, if you would give me a minute. If all hearts and minds clear, anything else needs to be stated? Thank you, Dr. Maddox. Motion, who made the motion to adjourn? Ms. Davis, is there a second? Okay, I don't think we need any discussion on that. All in favor?